Hello and welcome to Coming Home with Mama T. I'm your host, Tiara, aka Mama T. And on this podcast, we explore the journey of creating the life of our desires through mastering manifestation, maintaining a positive mindset, and living luxuriously. Today, we have a very special guest. We have Lauren Connelly joining us. And when we talk about living luxuriously, I have to say it means anything. And so we're going to have a little nature talk today. So Lauren is a multidisciplinary artist who, with a passion for art and biology, stemming from childhood days surrounded by wildlife, magazines, dreams of creating beautiful art, and countless days exploring the forest. While pursuing a degree in maritime studies, she explored her artistic talents in watercolor and photography, ultimately finding her niche. Despite initially being nudged towards a career in graphic design, Lauren's heart remained steadfast in her love for the natural world. With a diverse array of certifications, including a certified interpreter guide, naturalist, and scuba instructor, Lauren's journey led her to work as a diver at an aquarium for over a decade. There's the orchestrated conversation trips, igniting a passion for ocean conservation and others. Transitioning from the aquarium during the pandemic, Lauren and her husband, John, founded JL Aerial Views, a fully FFA certified and insured drone company serving the greater Cincinnati tri-state area. Under the JLAV umbrella, Lauren's artistic endeavors flourished through Wild Development Studio, where her vibrant pieces celebrate the natural world through wildlife photography, watercolor painting, and nature journaling. New in 2024, Wild Development's podcast aimed to inspire people to connect with nature through storytelling and visual arts. Ooh, super, super juicy. There's so many things. Number one, like top of mind, because I love the water. Water is like my favorite way to connect with nature, the ocean. So can you tell us a little bit about like the journey, like your journey as a scuba instructor? Because that's something I've always wanted to do, and I never had the chance to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So my early days, I was kind of terrified of the water. I had an incident when I was about 5 years old where some kid was sitting on me and was not letting me up. And my mom had to come over. She was like 6 months pregnant at the time. She had to come over and rip this kid off of me. And I was terrified of the water. But I love animals, and there is an aquarium close to me. And I started out on the dry side doing dive shows and talking about the animals and just being so close to the animals. I'm like, I want to get closer. I want to be in the water. And my first time I stuck my head underwater at the pool. I mean, we're in 3 feet of water in the pool. I have the regulator in my mouth. We go underwater. I have a full-on panic attack. And just back to that moment when I was 5, and I could like picture it in my mind still. So it was a lot of positive self-talk to try and calm myself down and just relax, because it is a very foreign environment being underwater and learning to trust your gear. So I started as an open water scuba diver, as we all do. And then just being in the aquarium environment for so long, I became a volunteer diver so I can get in the water with them. And I love that so much. And eventually one of the divers was leaving, a paid diver, and she was like, I want you to apply to be a dive safety officer. And I'm like, gosh, I don't have the right certification. She's like, that's all right. We're going to walk you through it all. And so I went from, open water diver all the way up to an instructor. And that's several certifications and lots of time in the water and lots of things that got me outside of my comfort zone. Like you have to take your mask off and swim 50 yards with your mask off and take your gear off and put it back on, and all these things that are very uncomfortable, but it is totally worth it to be in the water. I've had some incredible experiences.
Oh man, that is amazing. And that totally just reminded me, I totally have forgotten about it, but I think it was like 3 or 4 one time, and I went to the ocean because every year my family would go to the beach for vacation. And I remember one time I just like ran out, like I had no fear of the water at the time, and I like ran out and I got like hit by this gnarly wave and just like taken under and flipped. And like literally, it was like 3 years before I would get back into the ocean. And like the same thing. I remember like being like little, and my dad's like, I bought us a boogie board. We're gonna go in the water. And I was like, ah, and I had to like have this conversation with myself and be like, I'm gonna be okay. Like God's got my hand and all this stuff and like run. And then I just like did it. And the next thing you know, I couldn't get out of the water. They were like, let's go. It's time to get out. Yeah, so beautiful. Ooh, can you tell us a little bit about like what are some like top extraordinary stories that you've had in the wilderness?
My gosh. So when you're talking about being little and being in the water and kind of being afraid, that reminded me of my son. We took him to the Florida Keys and we all went snorkeling. And I was currently in my job as a diver, and he's watched me in the water, and he didn't really understand why I liked it so much. And this is his first chance to be in the ocean, not being able to touch the bottom because it's about 20 feet deep. There's a coral reef underneath us. And he finally works up the nerve to get in the water. And he sticks his head in and he pops it out and he looks at me. He's like, Mom, now I understand why you love this so much. And it touched my heart so much.
I
Uh,
love it.
is so great. And he, as soon as he could, around 11, 12 years old, he got his junior open water certification. So I got to take him to Florida at Blue Grotto, and that's where he got his certification. And they've got a turtle there. We both are over the moon in love with any sort of turtle. And they've got a soft shelled turtle there named Virgil. And that turtle just swam right up to him. And oh gosh, he's got a big picture I took of Virgil downstairs in his room. And he wears that shirt all the time. It says, I swam with Virgil. So it just experiences like that where I can connect deeper with my son, and my husband's a diver too. So experiences like that just really stand out to me. We go to Crystal River every winter because the manatees come into the springs. The springs stay about 72 degrees all year round. So when it's cold out in the Gulf, the manatees will come in to stay warm. And you can go to certain places and, under the right regulations, observe the manatees. And I had my nephew Gunner with me, and he is about 3-4 years old. And he was obsessed with the fact that manatees can control their buoyancy through farting. So they can fart and like sink down a little bit. And so we're standing in waist deep water and I'm holding him, and we got to see a manatee fart together. And he loved it, and he was laughing, and he thought that was the coolest thing. He still talks about it to this day. So it's moments like that that are really cool, that help us connect with each other and with our natural environment.
Oh yeah. There's something just magical about connecting with like animals. Like actually right now we have I think they're mourning doves that are on my balcony. So like I have like a nice little balcony here in downtown Los Angeles, and we've like created like a little kind of our own way to touch grass, if you will, with like fake grass and plants and herbs and all that. And the last couple of years, we'll have these mourning doves that come back and they like create a nest and hatch their eggs. And to me, it's just like, oh my gosh, I've created a safe space for nature to like show up. And so we have like two, they just hatched, and they're growing, and I'm just like watching like, okay, oh, this is so beautiful and wonderful to feel connected in this moment. And I love it.
That's great. A lot of people get discouraged. They're like, oh, I live in an urban environment, or there's not a lot of trees or anything around me. I love that you created a space, because urban nature is still nature too. And that's great that you can, it's called, in the nature journaling world, phenology. So that's the study of the climate and plants and animal life. So you're observing them coming in and season to season and how they're changing. And that's a great way to connect with nature.
I love that. Yes, I definitely find that like living in the city is just like kind of, if I make it hard, it'll be hard to like interact with nature. But if I'm like, you know what, I can drive 20 minutes and be to the ocean. I can also go, further inland and be near trees. And I just have to choose to go to it. It's not in my backyard like when I lived in Virginia, which is, completely different.
Yeah.
Yes, I love it. So, in that same vein, what are some like ways that you find to help be like more mindful in nature?
That is a really good question, because we all have our cell phones on us all the time, and this point, I feel like it's an addiction for a lot of people. You have to have something in your hands at all times. And a really great way to be mindful is through nature journaling. And I find that it helps me to put my phone down because I've replaced it with something else in my hands. I got my journal, I have my pencil or my pen or watercolors or whatever. And I'm engaging in all my senses, sense of sight, what birds are flying by, what do they sound like, what do I hear, what does that leaf feel like, the ground. So you're really engaging all your senses. That helps you to be present in the moment and connecting with nature. And then also, like, even bird watching, if you're not into sketching something out or journaling how you're feeling at the moment, you can always just pick up a pair of binoculars and do some bird watching. It's a great way to reconnect.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So, for someone that might not be like, they're like, okay, I'm interested in going out into nature, but like, I don't know anything about animals. There may be fear about getting bitten by something or touching poison ivy, poison oak, whatever. What are some tips that you might be able to give?
So there are a great resource with the internet right now and researching before you get outside. I love field guides. I carry them around with me everywhere. That'll help you out for sure. But if you're really unsure about what an animal is, or if you're in an environment where there could be a venomous snake or something like that, go to a local park. Usually they have some sort of experience where you can learn deeper about an animal. Like in Ohio, and I'm sure in the Virginia area, the flying squirrel is the most prolific squirrel. I have only seen one in the wild once, and it was through a nature park program. And they're nocturnal, so you're not going to see them during the day, and they're itty bitty and they hide out in trees. So that's something that I learned about that I wouldn't have otherwise had I not gone to seek out that experience. So finding a naturalist is a good way. YouTube is a great resource. And that thing with nature journaling too, it is not about right or wrong. It is just for you. You don't have to spell anything right or wrong. You don't have to know the animal. It's just all about curiosity and just looking at an animal and writing down, okay, I see, like outside my window, I see a yellow finch and he's got a little black hat. Well, it looks like a little black hat, a little patch of feathers there. And it looks like he's eating, and just writing down what you're observing. And it doesn't have to be right or wrong. And you can write out the questions and you can dig in and research further later on. But all of those things help to get you more curious, and don't be afraid, because usually we're all okay.
Very, very true. I used to hear, I think like during Girl Scouts, they were always like, they're more afraid of you than you are of them, kind of was always the thing that was tapped into. So we're all okay, and we all get to explore a little bit there. So have you always had like a deep love for nature and wildlife?
Yeah, absolutely. And that started when I was very little. My dad was always, if he was working in the backyard and he came across an animal, he would show it to me, and we get to explore and look at it closer together. Or there was a toad that lived in the gutter, and we named him George. Like everything I think was named George. And I now have a dog named George. So, um, so just engaging with me at a very young age and showing me that, even as a girl, it's okay to get muddy. And, I grew up in the 80s and 90s where it was, you go outside and play and disappear until it's time to come home and eat dinner. So I would just be out in the woods and we'd build forts, or we'd be playing in the creek and flipping rocks over and picking up little crawdads and things like that. So it's just always been a part of me.
Where have been some of your like favorite places like worldwide that you've traveled and interacted with nature?
Gosh, well, I love turtles. So definitely in the Caribbean is a beautiful place to see turtles. And I took my son last year to St. Croix, and we both had a head cold and we could not go scuba diving, which was a huge bummer because I had been telling him for a year, because I had gone a year before without him. And I'm like, I can't wait to take you, and we're going to go swimming with scuba diving with the sea turtles, and you're going to be blown away about how cool it is. And we both had a head cold. So we couldn't go diving because we wouldn't be able to equalize. And finally, on the last day, we decided, all right, let's just go snorkeling. Let's just get in the water because we, came all this way. We have to get in the water. And we spotted a green sea turtle at the bottom, picking at some seagrass and eating. And when it came up to get a breath, he came up right next to us. And the look on my son's face was just pure joy and excitement. And it's just one of my favorite moments, getting to share sea turtles with my son.
That's beautiful. I love snorkeling and just being able to see, all the animals in their natural habitat and swimming around. I think the biggest memory I have is we were in Thailand and went on this like boat tour of like all these like small islands that are like uninhabited, like there are museums and stuff on them, but no one actually lives there. And during this tour, our guide, he was like, all right, get in the water and just like threw us snorkels and we like jumped in the water. And so we're like swimming around and we're having a good time and like looking and without us knowing, he had food and would just throw it like right at our faces and then all the fish went to our face. And I was like terrified for a second. And I was like, oh my gosh, these are so beautiful. Look at all the colors. Because it's not something I see like stateside with like the bright yellows and all of that. So it was just so magical.
It was really cool. Snorkeling and scuba diving are just the best because you cannot, I guess you can have your phone on you now that they have those little pouches and you take pictures or whatever, but that is a great way to just completely disconnect from all those notifications that are constantly buzzing at us and just sit and observe the animals like you were saying.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Ooh, in that same vein, so trying to unplug from our phones, right? But it's the culture to just like take a picture. Ooh, I got to get a picture with this thing. I got to get a picture. What are some ways that we can like disconnect from like, oh, I need to like document this moment for my Instagram rather than just like enjoying the moment?
See, I struggle with this a lot because I'm a wildlife photographer. And even like last night, I was on a walk with my husband and we saw a huge pileated woodpecker. It's like one of the biggest woodpeckers around, and it's got the bright red head. And I believe it's the woodpecker that they modeled Woody the Woodpecker after.
Oh.
And it's just an incredible animal. And I'm like, oh man, why do I not have my camera? And the day before that, I saw a hawk and it had, I think it was a mouse in its talons and it was flying overhead of us. And I'm like, man, I really wish I had my camera and to document it. But the thing to remember is you only have this moment once. We cannot recreate this moment. So just, if you can't document it, just stop and pause and take it in as much as possible, because who cares if it's documented? I mean, I have hundreds of thousands of pictures, no joke, on my phone in the cloud, and even if I post it on Instagram, it might get a couple likes, but then that moment's gone. So just really truly enjoy that moment for yourself, because it is a gift.
That's beautiful. I love that. Thank you. Can you tell a little bit more about like being a naturalist and what that looks like?
So in 2020, I decided to take the Ohio Certified Volunteer Naturalist program, and that is a program that is available to, I believe, everyone. It's called different things in different states, but for the most part, it's like a certified volunteer naturalist, and you take several weeks of classes through a park. I went through the Cincinnati Nature Center, and they focus on different aspects. Like 1 week we're studying geology and fossils in the area. 1 week we were studying insects and pollinators. So there's a different topic each week. They give you different types of homework to do. And then every year you have to complete 30 hours of either continuing education, which is great because I just did a nature journal class. So that hours counted towards my 2024 requirements. Or you can sign up and volunteer with a park. So all that knowledge you learn, they're setting you up to keep it going, so to speak. And so I use that certification to do trail steward work at the nature center. So we walk the trail, we make sure it's safe. If there's a tree down or a hanging branch or something that looks like it could cause problems, then we report that. And I use a lot of the knowledge on my podcast and trying to educate other people in all the things wildlife. I love nature so much, and I just love its healing powers and what it's done for me. And I love sharing that with other people. So there's so many ways. We're all naturalists. We are all part of nature. And we just need to find ways to reconnect and get down to our roots.
I love that. You just like totally inspire me. I'm like, oh my gosh, I totally have time to try to like look into it in LA and figure it out. Cause I know for myself, I want to learn more about nature and herbs and growing more plant life, and one day I want to have my own retreat where I can help people really connect in with nature. So that's so amazing. So this is perfect. I love it. I love it. So thank you so much for being here. Is there anything else that you would like to share with our audience today?
Just get outside. Forest bathing is something that's been around for centuries, and it's kind of like a hip term right now, but it actually has so many benefits in reducing stress hormones and helping you have better sleep through receiving natural light and things like that. So just get outside without an agenda and enjoy nature, because as much as you're going to enjoy it, it is equally as good for your soul and your body.
Yes, I love that. Thank you so much for being with us today. And thank you guys for listening. Remember, like, share, subscribe. I'll definitely have all the contact information in the show notes. So if you want to learn more about Lauren and connect with her podcast, definitely, check out those notes, and I will catch you on the next one. Bye.